していない期待したくもない君と巡り合ったそれ以上のどんでん返しなんてないからちょっと大人ぶってみたいちょっとだけわかったみたい飲み込んだ言葉の日がさ背中を隠したあの月のようにいつも人は皆自分の気持ちを隠して輝いてみせた帰らなくちゃ帰らなくちゃだってそれもまた愛すべき運命最後までね最後までまだ新しいメロディーを歌い続けていたい終わらない旋律を奏でてよ何千年が経ったって何万年が経ったってきっとこの1秒は永遠に続いてゆく始まること終わりゆくことそっと今君が泣いてくれたことそれを運命だと言うなら全部抱きしめてみよう世界が彩りに満ちてゆく全てが祝福を奏でているナノのファンクラブの画像をでっかくしてにゃんこにご飯あげてきます。行ってきます。
It appears the streets have forgotten about the absolute insanity that is Mega Heracross. Bro has the strongest attack stat in the game at base 185, which is just diabolical. For reference, the thing hits harder than Mega Rayquaza. I mean, Mega Mewtwo X technically does have a higher attack stat, but it's not in the game, so Mega Heracross is currently the king. It's got enough defensive bulk to pretty much guarantee that it can always take a hit, Plus, to round it out, it has the amazing and incredibly fun ability Skill Link, which allows all of its multi-hit attacks to hit the maximum 5 times every time. It's kind of mid-speed tier at base 75, can allow it to be used with Trick Room or Tailwind, but today we're going to work with a Trick Room set with minimum speed. You can pull out stab close combat that annihilates just about everything. I mean, we're talking nearly unfair levels of defense. For some skill link options, we've got Stab Missile that's effectively a 125 base power move since it hits all 5 times, along with Rock Blast for coverage that wrecks top threats like Charizard or things like Pelipper. The combination of solid bulk and this evil offense makes Mega Heracross one of the most fun decks to use right now. And so today it's time to find out just how crazy this thing can be. As a known bug type enjoyer, I love me some Mega Heracross. This thing is incredibly fun, it's such a cool Pokemon, and I'll tell you what, it's actually super nice into the meta right now, and so it's finally time to show my boy some love. Look, if this sounds like a fun time to you, consider hitting that subscribe button. Most of the people watching are not subscribed, so we're working with a team created by one of my favorite people on the internet, the boy PokeAimMD, working with a little Trick Room Heracross squad, and I'll break it down a little bit for you. First of all, fun team to use. Heracross does have a little bit of problems against opposing Trick Room because it's not the slowest Pokemon. Its base 75 speed is kind of their way of balancing the thing to make it so it's like, it's not really fast enough to be fast, but it's also not slow enough to be great under Trick Room. But it is still, it does find itself in a lot of positions where it can games in the back. One of my favorite things about Heracross is that it pressures opposing Farigiraf and it always gets knocked out with Pin Missile, so that's a big plus. We've got a scrappy Fake Out Last Resort Kangaskhan that often comes as a lead to be able to press the pressure to allow the Galarian Slowking to set up Trick Room. I do really like the Glowking, you know, as a Trick Room setter, matches up really well into things like Sneasler. We can often be able to Chilly Reception out to be able to change weather if need be. We can often, with that defensive bolt, be able to take pretty much any attack. We've also got things like Torkoal, who are just insane under Trick Room to apply some pressure, along with Sylveon and Gambit. So Sylveon is really nice into things like Garchomp, but obviously Sylveon is just one of the strongest fairies in the game right now. The King Gambit is actually going to be the Supreme Overlord instead of Defiant. It's still going to be able to kind of stop people from wanting to bring Intimidators against it, but you keep this thing in the back. Supreme Overlord boosts are insane with late game Sucker Punches, and it's just a great secondary sweeper paired with the Heracross in the back. So, without any further ado, let's take a look at our first matchup. Now, right from the start, it appears we're going up against another Trick Room team, which is scary, except for the fact that if it's going to be like a Farigiraf paired with a Blastoise, I'm actually fine ending up leading with the Heracross here. I can immediately threaten their Farigiraf with just a big Pin Missile knockout. The interesting part is Heracross is slower than Blastoise, so it almost feels like they probably do not want to set up Trick Room here. But I am going to lead off with the Heracross along with the Glowking. I want to be able to set up Trick Room if I can. It could be imprison Farigiraf, which would be a problem. However, Heracross does still just get some really good pressure. I can take any neutral attack with Blastoise, even like a Water Spout. So in the back, I'm bringing Gambit, which just obviously takes care of things like Basculegion and even Sinistra. I'm also going to bring the Kangaskhan, who also does not care about the double ghosts over there. Could make the argument that Sylveon might be a little bit better in this situation, but for the most part, Kangaskhan, as long as Farigiraf is dealt with, we have some fun. So let's jump into it. All right, so as we bank on seeing the Blastoise with the Farigiraf as the lead, that is what they're going to go with. And this is kind of an interesting dynamic, but we both kind of have the same idea in that we want to set up Trick Room. It feels like they're kind of put on the back foot in that my Trick Room sweeper is slower than theirs. So it feels like if this Farigiraf does not have Prison, we're going to have a pretty good spot here to at least try to get some momentum going. Now, I feel like this Farigiraf might even potentially swap out here just with the prospect of a big Pin Missile coming through. I'm also going to go ahead and get a Mega first of all. I want to detect here with the Heracross. It's first of all going to allow me to be safe no matter what happens. Bad thing about Blastoise is it's going to click Fake Out into something. I figure they probably want to click it into the Slowking to stop Trick Room from going up. Things to consider though are that once Trick Room is up, Farigiraf is actually faster under Trick Room than Heracross. So knowing that I have to deal with a potential Psychic from that is going to hurt. They do just end up going turn 1, double attack into Heracross. They try to get the Fake Out off into the Beetle, and they even click Psychic into that. So no Imprison from the Farigiraf feels pretty damn nice. Now we're about to it's about to be an absolute Heracross bloodbath, hopefully. So again, the thing about it is this Farigiraf is faster than the Heracross. I know that I can take one psychic from it, even if it's like max special attack, which it says a lot about the thickness of this damn bug. So the decision now becomes, do they double into, they probably go water spout, even though the Blastoise is going to be slower here and have to potentially consider, do I want to pin this one right into the Frig Wrap, or should I go for damage into the Blastoise? I decide I am just going to go ahead and throw a missile out at the Frig Wrap. I can also pair that with a psychic and a Blastoise for some dip. The Cloaking is going to be able to go first here, get a nice little bit of damage there, knock it down to 69. Nice, but as they do go for the psychic here, it's going to take a nice little turn out. But we live it with 65, which is actually kind of crazy. I can then fire off the missile again real fast with the Blastoise, and this is nice because even with Citrus Berry, we kill every Frig Wrap ever, and we even get to just run in the back pocket. 4 with the Citrus Berry, that's a dead Frig. Now, as the Heracross is in danger of whatever this Blastoise is clicking, one thing is, I feel like they probably go Dark Pulse, and they go Pulse into the Galarian Slowking, which honestly, even with Mega Launcher, doesn't even do too much, knocks us into Citrus range, which is amazing. So now as Heracross gets to stay alive here, we're feeling pretty nice. Basically being the fastest thing on the field and applying some pretty nice pressure almost on everything they've got. So they decide to bring in the Rhyperior. Honestly, pretty good use of now using my Trick Room against me, because Dwayne The Rock Johnson over here, this badass, is faster under Trick Room than Heracross. But I've got a plan. First of all, a Pin Missile knocks out Blastoise here. I need to get rid of that thing. And also, looking at what Rhyperior does here, I don't know what it really threatens Heracross with. And we get to show off this pretty nice, utility here with a big old heal pulse, which we're going to be able to go first because we are slow and we are king. And that's going to heal me nearly back to full. That should put me in range to live a Rock Slide easily. They do go for the Rock Slide. I live it at half. And now I hope for no flinch. No flinch comes through. And as we get off another Pin Missile here, it is going to be enough to take care of the Blastoise. So that's incredibly satisfying. The flinch there could have been pretty bad, but again, Slowking being the slowest thing on the field, I can continue to heal pulse. And we're basically just a couple of purple homies. And Slowking's main prerogative at this point is keep the Heracross safe. So their final mod ends up being the King Gambit. And once again, Trick Room was nice to be able to allow me to be faster than Blastoise, but now I find myself in another position where Gambit is now going to be faster than Heracross. So, looking at what the options are here, Gambit has to go for like an Iron Head into the Heracross slot. We saw how much the Rock Slide did to the Heracross. And considering who I want to target here, looking at what I have in the back, it kind of feels like the Gambit is what I want to deal with first here. So I'm just gonna straight up go for another heal pulse. We're playing keep the bug healthy, and I can get myself back to full and pretty much guarantee that I can take a doubling, unless it was like Stone Edge from the Rhyperior here. We get all the way back to full as they go Rock Slide. I really hope that was Heracross that avoided it. Nope, turns out to be freaking Slowking, somehow playing dodgeball over here. They're gonna knock me down to half with a critical hit, which is unfortunate. Now, Gambit gets off a big Iron Head, but the bug is too thick, baby. We live with 18, which is insane because, check this out. First of all, I didn't flinch through either of those attacks. Second of all, Choppleberry King Gambit, we don't care. We are able to get a knockout through a Choppleberry, which is the best thing ever. That base 165 attack is no joke. And that deletes the Gambit. So we've now gotten ourselves in a real fun position where, obviously, we're in danger of dying from this Rhyperior. One turn of Trick Room left. Pure body bag fashion. Contact! Is that I can now go for a attack, wait for the Trick Room to wear off, and then I'll be faster than there. It doesn't matter. Honestly, it literally does not matter because of what I have in the back. They are going to do the Rock Slide option to take care of the Loki, but the dimensions return to normal, and we were nice under Trick Room. Now we're nice not under Trick Room, and yeah, you kind of see the awkwardness of this. But all I got to do is go into Kangaskhan in the back. A fake out basically guarantees that this thing kind of just loses, and a close combat, even though this thing is fat as hell, base 130 defense, 115 HP, close combat's going to be able to finish it, and that is an incredibly satisfying game number 1 with our absolute GOAT Heracross. Such a fun Pokemon. We got to showcase some interesting stuff there. The Choppleberry King Gambit is one of my favorite aspects of this. It always gets a knockout through that. So I'll tell you what, it feels pretty nice. So let's go ahead and let's just jump right into our next matchup and see what we do. So the unfortunate part about today's meta is that you basically have to look at your team and say, how do I match up against Zard Y? Because they're everywhere. And we are going up against the Zard team here. And the good thing is, Heracross with Trick Room up beats Charizard Y with a Rock Blast. Always easily gets a kill with just like 2 Rock Blasts, which is super nice. So as we're looking at the team here, there are some threats like the Garchomp is bad for the Heracross here. So we are going to bring Sylveon on the back. I'm going to lead off with the Kangaskhan and the Galarian Slowking. Feels like kind of the general standard lead for this team, and that we can get a fake out into something, anything essentially. Even if it's going to be the best Legion, we get a fake out. We can almost guarantee that we're going to be able to get up our Trick Room as we're not seeing any faster fake out users. So let's go ahead and jump in and see how it goes. All right, now the lead I was expecting was going to be Zard Y along with Whimsicott. Turns out it's going to be Garchomp and Whimsicott, which is scary for the Slowking, right? We need to protect the Slowking and being able to get up this Trick Room. So my fake out is essentially going to have to be used on the Garchomp. Things I'm worried about here would be a extra taunt from Whimsicott, but you know, we're just gonna have to deal with it. If that ends up coming out, I would like to run Mental Herb on the Slowking. The Citrus Berry does feel quite a bit better. Regardless, though, this Garchomp would have to Stomping Tantrum into this slot, and basically, if there's no taunt, we get up this Trick Room, and while we run the risk of being onboard on the next turn, we get the fake out off. A nice little chunk out of Saudi over there. Turns out they are going to straight up just go for a Moonblast into the Kangaskhan. So Big Mama does not care. Honestly, we're basically here for that big fake out. We expect now the Trick Room to go up, so we'd love to see it. I figure that Whimsicott was just kind of in a spot where obviously it didn't want a Tailwind. It can't, if it didn't want to encore anything yet, obviously. So my thought process at this point is, while they could encore my fake out with the Kangaskhan, they most likely want to do it into the Slowking here to just immediately turn off my own Trick Room. And I must not let that happen. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to last resort here into the Garchomp. It basically will put it in range to where then Heracross can deal with it. And this feels like one of the situations where I can hard switch into Heracross, just knowing that this Prankster Encore is likely coming. The kind of awkwardness with this early game is that getting in Heracross to be able to use up these Trick Room turns it is a little bit difficult, but when we can bring it in, they do go for Encore. It feels super nice. So the last resort almost actually knocks out the Garchomp. Boy, that would have been quite nice. However, they just go Stomping Tantrum. Kind of expected it maybe into the Slowking. They actually opt for the Kangaskhan. But the moral of the story is we get into Heracross safely under Trick Room, and now Buddy's ass is holding a vacant sign, and Heracross is looking for a room. So at this point, I can decide who I want on the rent switch in. I decided to go Sylveon, right? Just because one thing about this Garchomp living on 1 that's annoying is that I can actually just click a Hyper Voice, which will knock that out. And I can even just go through a Focus Sash on the Whimsicott here, which we are worried about a Moonblast, so I don't have to deal with that as long as I get off the Pin Missile here. While it was mostly here against the Garchomp, who I expected to be in the back, Sylveon is just absolutely insane right now. So we're just going to throw out a Hyper Voice. Turns out they're going to swap out the team. And as they bring in the Charizard, we're not afraid of the scariest Mega in the game, because I have myself a Heracross. We are going to go ahead, bust out the Mega. First, I remember when this thing was I wasn't a big fan of its design, but I do actually like it. It's grown on me throughout the years. Anyway, Hyper Voice comes through. We don't care about the very scary Charizard Mega over there, essentially. As long as Trick Room is alive, we are fine. I do get off the Pin Missile, which is that one way that it's kind of nerfed itself is that all of its moves, other than close combat, have that chance to miss, which feels very bad when you do end up missing one. There, and we get the payout. So on the ring switch, and they bring in now. Most of the time, regular Galore is just going to be Focus Sash. There's a whole lot to do really to it at this point. I figure it probably wants to just go something like a Sludge Bomb into the Sylveon here. I'm considering if I want to try to get up a substitute or what Sylveon really does, but it feels like in the end, I'm actually just going to go right into the Galarian Slowking. Sludge Bomb, nicely, and then it's positioned really well on the next turn to be able to outspeed and hit it with a Psychic. But most important thing is I need to hit this Rock Blast into Charizard. So they are going to go for the Megazard here. And this is one of those kind of situations where it's like, yeah, the Rock Blast is just an immediate destruction against the Megazard Y. But do we get that 10% chance for the miss? That truly is the question. Luckily, nope. We just go ahead and hurl a boulder at Buddy's face, and that there's just Charizard blood everywhere. That's going to immediately take care of it, which is amazing. And at this point now, we even have Slowking positioned into the Aura. We can break its focus sash by just doubling into it. And we don't have to be afraid of the Garchomp in the back because we do have a Sylveon tucked away. So that is why we love Mega Heracross. If you're able to get up our trick room safely, you just have a good time. That time we didn't have to worry about any really speed shenanigans there at all. Heracross on top, and let's take a look at our next matchup. So this time we've got ourselves into a Mega Floette game, and this is kind of scary. Now, they also have a Zoroark, right? Hisuian Zoroark most of the time is going to come disguised early. That just kind of feels like something you can at least expect. For that reason, I'm going to lead off with the Kangaskhan and the Glowking combo. As I consider going Gambit for the Mega Floette, I'm actually not super afraid of Mega Floette with the pressure of things like Kangaskhan and even the threat of a Sludge Bomb from, you know, the Galarian Slowking. While I don't have it, I can bluff it, and it probably feels like if it leads, it doesn't really want to stay in. I am worried about things like a faster fake out from Sneasler. One way that this Kangaskhan is shut down is that if they get off their fake out, I didn't have to swap because I can't for last resort. So the thing I'm considering is that Sylveon comes over Gambit in the end just because of the threat of Garchomp for the most part. But with, you know, the Heracross in the back, if I can set up this Trick Root, which feels like I have a pretty good spot to be able to get it up, try to get my pressure and get her going. So let's jump into it. All right, so they are going to lead off Floette and Sneasler. Is that actually Floette and Sneasler something Zoroark? I feel like, and that's the great part about Scrappy Kangaskhan, is that I'm going to be able to get off a fake out into whatever I want, and it feels like, for the most part, Trick Room is absolutely going up here with Slowking. There's nothing that really pressures an immediate knockout. If it is actually Sneasler, it can get off the fake out here. Floette probably just wants to get we're going to bust out the Mega Floette. Turns out this is not Zoroark. So I'm like, all right, yeah, that check. You passed the vibe check. You are, in fact, no ID necessary, and it gets the Fairy Aura as well. So that also has to be on the back note, but also taking off my fake out into Sneasler, which can only mean one thing, and that's that it was not the Sneasler. At least it didn't go for fake out. Reveals that it is going to be the Hisuian Zoroark, and this is nice. This is what we like to see here as a turn one, because we get some chip, break a sash on the thing potentially, and then as the Floette does go Dazzling Gleam, it does get a crit, which does not really matter. I can then get up my Trick Room guaranteed, and the fake out is super nice because we would have been able to take a ball, which I think actually could have been able to take one. So one thing I really like about this lead combo is Kangaskhan is going to be very fast and just hits the last resort. I would love to get it off into the Mega Floette just because a great way to touch it. I can bluff switch out, that's fine. I am going to go ahead and just click the last resort into the Mega Floette, but then
They're on me.
As I'm looking at it, like the best way to get the pressure with this team is to try to get Heracross in early. And since I know that I can't risk Zoroark probably wants to Shadow Ball that slot, I can swap in Heracross. In the meantime, a last resort just straight up deletes the Mega Floette. So, you know, that right away is going to down goes the Floette here. I bring in Heracross on the same turn where its natural predator is gone, and I come in on a Shadow Ball, which I take a little less than one, which is fantastic. So, as they revenge switch this is one thing that Heracross doesn't have a great way to touch, right? So, what I decide is I can go last resort into that slot, and as I'm looking at it, this Zoroark doesn't really apply a lot of pressure, mainly to as long as Heracross feels like it can stay alive. Shadow Ball is its best damage that it can really do here, so I'm actually going to double the Bastard Legion. I can go Pin Missile into it, which isn't going to do a lot. It'll easily put it into a point where a last resort, if it has Aqua Jet priority, it's fine. We can do that as well. So as we get the Pin Missile off, even just a resistant hit, you get 5 of them. It's going to do a lot. Plus, each individual gets a chance for a crit. We do get one of them there. We do over half with a Pin Missile, which is very satisfying that that's a and the last resort. So the biggest threat on the field being the Bastard Legion. We saw the Shadow Ball come through from Zoroark. I don't know what it really wants to do here. Turns out it has the coverage in Psychic, but what also turns out is that it's not going to be enough to knock this out. Non-stab Psychic, we're barely able to live, and that's where this thing's defense is so close. 4 or 5 allows us to take that, and that is quite nice. So here's the thing. That was the Sneasler because of the fact that obviously the Zoroark was disguised says that, but since we have the Galarian Slowking in the back, I basically have the answer for the Sneasler guaranteed. I'm gonna go Detect just because I feel like it probably wants to fake out into the slot. Turns out no fake out at all. Kangaskhan's able to outspeed Zoroark. Stars and fit in Elastisort takes care of it, which means Sneasler likely just goes close combat here. Which is annoying. But again, knowing that their Phantomon being Sneasler, I have the easy check to it being the Slowking. There's nothing in the world that thing can do to pressure the Slowking. So that's going to activate the White Herb. It is going to just be unburdened here. It's going to be very fast, except for the fact that the room is still tricked up. Now, there's only one turn of the trick. No! I have both Sylveon and the Galarian I go Sylveon. That's because it puts pressure on like either A, if they want to protect, I could substitute. B, if they want to not die to the Sylveon, they kind of have to just go Dire Claw into that slot, which then just leaves Heracross open to click a close combat into it. But I decided to just try to dunk on it with the Hyper Beam, and they do go for the protect. So it's a 3 versus 1 situation here, and it did not allow me to get off my sweet Hyper Beam. If I find a spot to click a fun Hyper Beam, I'm going to do it. But Dimensions return to normal. I should have just gone substitute on their protect and guarantee the win at that point. But it's fine. What I can do is now just switch into the Galarian Slowking. They kind of just have to into the Sylveon slot. Unfortunately, with the White Herb negating a defensive drop, it can live a close combat, but I'm kind of just interested to see how much it does. I get off the CC. It's going to do 70%. Just raw dog a 70% effective attack as well. And now we can live anything from this Sneasler. Can try for another Dire Claw sleep, I suppose. I go Detect here, basically with the Heracross here. Didn't consider a spread move, as they do actually end up going Rock Slide. So, you know, they could get like 6 flinches in a row in that take looking. It does go off. I save the Heracross's life just to ensure that it doesn't die. And we don't flinch. I get off the Psychic. That's going to be a dead Sneasler. Endgame, I probably took a little bit too long, but it's fine. Down goes the Sneasler. Poor little feller didn't even get a chance. And that's going to be the end of the game on that one. We are out here having a fun time with this damn Heracross. I'm not going to lie. I think I just love Heracross. Look, if you stuck around this far in the video, go ahead and do me a big favor. Hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. Also, check and see if there's a hype button as well. There's like a hype feature on YouTube that sometimes is there. I don't know. You can try to hit it if it's there. But let's take a look at our next matchup, because we're going to keep it rolling. Now, this one is kind of an interesting team preview, right? First of all, things that threaten Galarian Slowking from the start would be things like the Gengar, along with the Hisuian Typhlosion is very scary. So I got to try to lead off with Kangaskhan in Slowking and be able to ensure that I can essentially fake out something and allow Slowking to set it up. Now, also something to consider is that Tyranitar has a scary matchup for us, against the Slowking, but then they're just pressured by my Mega Heracross as well. So it's like,